capacity building project, and people coming from the global south and also from the Toxic Free Future campaign. Let me say you that as all the materials and all the activities we are developing, we record this activity. We used to record these workshops as well as the seminars and the webinars we do in order to share with all the people working in the campaign that perhaps is not able to come to the different events we do. Today we have a very crowded agenda because we have to make a little introduction of the situation we are living in Europe. And after this, I'll introduce people coming from a very important Spanish agency working in video recording, which is Ilusión Visual. And they have prepared a specific material for this workshop, which I'm very grateful about this, because they are thinking not in general issues related to recording, but specifically working with highly hazardous pesticides and the campaign goals we have. So I have to advise you also that given that we have a lot of things to talk about in the parts in which we can participate in comments and answer, please, I need to ask you to be very short and concrete when you make your questions, because then everybody can have the floor and everybody can have the opportunity to participate. So let's go with the introduction of the situation. As you know, we are living in the European Union a very important moment because there is a public consultation to prohibit the production or export of some hazardous highly pesticides from the European Union to the other countries in the global south. And this is the question we have to deal with in the same 3 months. This is part of an initiative under the umbrella of the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, under also the umbrella of the Green Deal, which tries to promote theoretically the safety and sustainability standards outside the European Union, to further align the European Union's internal and external policies, and to contribute to a safer environment in the European Union. Also, the European Union uses to try to be an example for the rest of the world. And this is a commitment they have since 2020, but is still promised but not accomplished. Just 1 moment to think about what is the meaning of this. This public consultation, it's really related to the Green Deal, of course, and it's related to the chemical strategy in the European Union, but not only. It makes really the Aarhus Convention, which entered in force in 2001, which has 3 pillars very important to have in mind: the information, the participation, and the access to justice in environmental matters. So we are talking about that the European Union is not just doing something that it promised to do within this legislatory period, but also they are doing something that they are accomplished they have to do to make clear and to make real the Aarhus Convention related to information, participation, and justice access in environmental matters. But we are not only talking about the European Union context. We are talking about the global, worldwide context. Why? Because Aarhus Convention and all the related legislation talking about the participation, information, and access to justice are born many years ago in the Rio Declaration in 1992, particularly in Principle 10 of Rio Declaration, which states, and this is for everybody, not only for Europe, that appropriate access to information concerning environment must be done, including hazardous materials and activities. Principle 10, signed many years ago in Rio, also states the opportunity to participate in the decision-making process that must be encouraged and facilitated by the governments, and also the effective access to justice in environmental matters. So we are not talking, this is a very broad thing. We are not talking only about the European Union process or an European Union directive or an European decision. We are talking about something very broad and something very important worldwide. Coming again to the political situation we are living, as you know, last 8th of May, it was open the opportunity to participate in this initiative in the European Union to prohibit the production for export of chemicals banned in the European Union. And we are here. There is a call for evidence, and this open opportunity brings us the opportunity to talk about what is happening in the countries receiving these highly hazardous pesticides banned in the European Union, but sold by the European Union. So we are here, and so now we are going to talk about how can we prove, how can we talk about this damage, this harm created in our countries in the south, or if we are working from the European side, how can we help to avoid the situation with videos? And our videos are not going to be a material for a trial. We don't need to be, we don't need to provide a medical technical specifications with a water analysis or whatever. This is not the question. The question is that we have to provide videos to serve as testimony, because this is the things we can do. We are not an university. We are not. We need them, but what we need to do now from the street, from the ground, is to show what is happening in my country, what is happening in my village, what is happening in my schools, what is happening in my orphan houses with these highly hazardous pesticides coming from the European Union. So now let me talk about just a few minutes about the legal situation. We are going to learn with Illusion Visual how to record videos. In the next workshops, we'll learn how to share these videos with social media work. But before all this, it's very important to talk about this. To record and to share some image from somebody or some place do really have legal consequences. Okay, so in the part we are working in the capacity building project, we have been developing different actions that have different results. And along the work, we are building alliance and we are strengthening ourselves. But at this moment, talking about videos, we have to remember that if we began making this list of HHPs with this investigation, the result is that we have internal knowledge and we are making capacity building. When we are sending letters to our governments, landing the campaign, addressing the authorities, which has been already done in Cameroon, it's been going to be done in Zambia, it has been done in Benin, we have a result which is a national recognition, meetings, some kind of work or nothing. Perhaps you write to your government a letter and the government doesn't give you a response. When you make a press release, you are telling the story and you are having national or international results. But now we have to stop and think. When we are making video recording, when we are providing video evidence damage, when we are sharing with social media these videos, we are having this result. We have national or international recognition and knowledge, but we are increasing the pressure. We are perhaps closer to achieve our goals, but we are exposing ourselves because we are persons with legal responsibilities that we have to know. So depends on the country you are working, depends on the situation you are facing, you can have no problems, some problems, a lot of problems, or great problems. So you have to decide, what do you want to tell, or what do you can tell, and how and when to record it. Just remember about the situation, for instance, for the freedom of press in the world. In the last report of Reports Without Borders, it just released it in May of this year, and in May of 2023, that there is a classification of the press freedom in different countries. And if we move here in Europe, well, more or less, we can have a normal situation, but just when we move to the south, where you are going to record these videos, depending of the countries and depending of the place, you can find or not some problems. And well, you have this presentation, you have this link, and you can check here the situation of your country if you want to have more information. I know you have the information about this situation of your countries, but it's our responsibility to remember this. So to finish with this legal advice before recording, I think we don't have to forget that the objective is the European Union. The objective is not the farmer who is working the crop, or the little company who is selling these HHPs in the shop of the village. We have the objective of targeting the European Union to say, stop exporting HHPs to my country with these results. And in this situation, we have to decide what key idea do we want to share? What key idea do you want to tell in our video related to what we can record and share safety from the legal point of view? So please have in mind this legal advice that you have to make before recording. The law, you have to know very well the laws of your country before recording. You have to think about if you are going to record people like victims, then they should sign a consent, a form to say that they agree to be recorded. Remember that in many countries, children cannot be, of course, recorded. That it's not the same to record in a public property or a private property, and always be clear and honest. Tell the people this is a great responsibility. Tell the objective of the video and that it can be shared. In the European Union, we know this legislation related to the regulation of protection of natural persons and protection of data, personal data. Okay, and for recording, there is some kind of obligations to people who is recording. And what we can talk about is to make a template for informed consent if you are going to record people who is victim of HHPs or whatever. So this is an example, but please have in mind that it is always very important to say people who is going to sign or is going to agree with the sign of this document to be recorded, that the capture of images are going to be disseminated within the campaign, concrete campaign, and not in other questions, and that they can reserve the right to say that they don't want to go ahead with appearing in some material. And you always have to talk about the law in your country, which is the regulation for this question. So sorry because I was running, because we have a lot of things to talk about today. And now for me, after making this framework review and this presentation about the important legal issues you have to have into account before recording and before sharing, of course, please don't forget this. I want to introduce these three wonderful professionals coming from Spain, who are Andrew McLaurin. Well, Andrew is not coming exactly from Spain. He's living now here. Andrew McLaurin, Alberto Carrillo, and Aurelio Rodriguez, who are working in Illusion Visual, an expert production company in generation of videos. Andrew is going to drive the presentation, and all of them are very happy to be here. I'm very grateful because they are very good professionals and they have prepared a specific material for us, and they are open to bring you all the information and also to answer all your questions. So thank you very much, and please, Andrew, you have the floor. Thank you very much for coming. You are muted, Andrew.
Hello.
Okay.
Not muted anymore. Okay, hello everyone. I think we're going to start with the first slide. I think if Noam is going to start with the first slide, would that be happening? Okay. Okay, once we get this up and going. So we're going to be looking at creating short advocacy videos with mobile phones. Okay, so Eva has spoken about some of the legal factors, but I mean, we have to look at, what is an advocacy video? We're trying to call attention to something, and we're trying to get people to follow and be interested in whatever it is we're calling attention to. And in our case, we have a specific target, which is the pesticides, and trying to inform the European Union of what is going on in each of our countries. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. This is a simple presentation of who we are, so you can match the faces. Okay, and then on to the next slide. Okay, so here we're getting to pre-production. It's very important whenever we're filming a video of any kind to understand and to have thought of what we're doing, why we're doing it, who it's directed to, where we're going to do it. All of these elements are very important. Although, of course, as with everything, as you'll see in this presentation, there are exceptions. Sometimes things happen in the moment and we have to be ready to film whatever we can and deal with that situation and life situation. But here we're generally talking about preparing to go out and film a specific video with a specific objective. Okay. Improvising can be useful, but with more planning, the chances are our videos will be more productive and hit their marker, which means we will engage with the audience that we're looking to engage with. Okay, and we will be able to explain what we want to talk about in a manner that's clear and precise. Okay, so pre-production involves making sure we have the idea, the place, the equipment, if it's possible, the equipment we might need to actually be recording the video. It will also include a script. We have to consider a script can be a very useful guide. It doesn't need to be a complete script, but it's a set of outlines as to what we're thinking we're going to film, why we're going to film it, what we want to say, who we want to talk to. These are various elements we need to consider in pre-production before going out to film. Of course, once we go out to film, things can change. Maybe we meet a new person that we're going to include in our script. We see something happen in the moment, we're going to include that. But with preparation, we know that this person that we meet could be useful for our story because we know what our story is. Okay, so this is the first thing about having a script, thinking about who it's directed at and what we want to say. Okay. Another thing to think about, of course, is that today in social media, there's a lot of competition for everything, lots of distractions. And if we want people to receive our message and be interested in what we're saying, then we have a very short time to be noticed. So we really need to grab attention. Now, this is why we're talking about how we prepare a video, thinking about what we're doing. In reality, if we're posting in Instagram, TikTok, and these kind of places, we have seconds to attract attention, seconds to get people involved in our story. We could be talking about 2 to 8 seconds. In those 2 to 8 seconds, people will either connect with what you have to say or they'll move on to the next thing, which whatever it might be in their feed. So there is no magic formula to do that, but with preparation of our idea, and later we'll look at certain things we can add to make it to make these videos more attractive and more, you know, to attract attention initially. These are all things we need to consider when going and setting about our video. You know, I'm going to make a video about pesticides next to a school. Okay, are people interested? Probably, because people don't like that. Okay, but they also like fancy cars. They also like other things. So how am I going to make sure that they're paying attention to what I'm saying about what's going on? Okay, so these are things that we consider when we're writing our script. We consider, how am I going to make sure people are interested in this story? Okay, what elements are going to be powerful, attractive? And what we'll find is that we front load videos, because the first few seconds are vital to get people involved. Okay. Also, we have to consider really where we're showing our videos. It's another very important element, because each platform has its pros and its cons. The platforms like Instagram and TikTok, as we all know, are very short videos where we have minimal time to be able to really attract attention. If we're on Instagram, we can have up to a minute. And in TikTok, we're talking maybe 15, 30 seconds. These things can change, because every few months, these platforms will change their limits to videos, and you have to keep updating yourself to find out how much or how long each video can be, and what is the best length for your given target. Okay, so we're saying, for example, Instagram, we have got a 1 minute video maximum. Well, you're thinking about, okay, my video is going to Instagram, it's 1 minute. I need to have the first few seconds of this video to be very interesting. Okay, and I want people to pay attention to the rest of my video. Okay, if we were to do a video for YouTube, we can do a longer video. Okay, YouTube, we can have a video that's 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but you still got the same problem, which is you need your first few seconds to be very interesting so that people will watch the rest of your video. If you don't hook people in the first few seconds, unfortunately, nobody's going to watch your video. Okay, so this is going back again to the pre-production, is making sure we know, we've thought about how we're going to get people to start to watch our video. And that goes back to the script. Okay. Of course, if you're very lucky and you're very good, maybe you can convince people to watch a 20-minute YouTube video, but it's not usually the case. Okay. So let's move on to the script. Okay. We'll go back. Sorry. Okay. I'm just gonna have a quick drink. So focusing, once we know our basic problem is attracting attention, okay, to the problem that we want to denounce, okay, or the situation we want to talk about. Okay, we know we have to consider where we're putting our video. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or another network, because these things are always changing. What is the length? Okay, as we're saying now, TikTok, very short videos of 15, 30 seconds. Instagram, videos of about 1 minute. YouTube, 1.5 minutes, maybe more if you have something very interesting to say. Okay, so now we have to go to a script. How are we going to get people involved in these videos? Okay, how are we going to get people to watch them? Okay, so in our case, what are we going to be doing our video about? In our case, we're denouncing something, a situation. Okay, so what are we denouncing? We have to consider, what is the situation here? As we've used in our example, an orphanage where they're spraying fields next to the orphanage with toxic pesticides, okay? This is the situation, okay? We want to say that this is happening, okay? And then we have to consider how are we going to explain what is happening here, okay? Are we going to go there? Are we going to film the situation? Are we going to film the children who are ill? Considering the advice that Eva gave us before, we have to be careful. Are we filming the people spraying the crops? Maybe not. Okay, maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe you put yourself in danger there. Okay, so then coming back to our script, how do we creatively look for a way to tell the story of people spraying crops? Okay, and the effects that this has on our children, our orphanage, which is what we're going to use as an example. Okay, so we're going to think about and be very clear about what we're going to denounce. That has to be in the script. What is also who? In this case, we're not necessarily denouncing, as Eva said, the person who's spraying the crops. He's just a person who works there. He's spraying the crops. He's bought his sprays in the local shop. He's just another individual in the chain. It's not his fault. Okay, so we're really denouncing here the European Union for letting these pesticides get into this situation, arrive there. Okay, so we know who we're denouncing there. Okay, and why are we doing this? Okay, so this all has to be within the script to explain that this is a terrible situation and we need to change, and there's an opportunity to change now within the European Union because they're going to address this matter. So coming back to our script, okay, we're just making sure we know what we're doing, what our plan is. We're not going out there and just saying, oh, I wonder what I can find today. Oh, look, there's some spraying. I'll just make up a video. You can do that. Maybe you find a situation that you haven't planned for and it's gold. This does happen. It's something very interesting. You film it and it works. But usually we're going with a plan. We're saying, I'm going to go to the orphanage. There are 6 children. Okay, so I'm going to interview the doctor because he will be able to explain to me what's going on. I'll get images of the children who are ill, of the orphanage. I will show the fields nearby where we know that this spray is coming from. And this is how we start thinking about our script to construct and tell a story. Okay. So let me just go on there. We've gone to who we want to denounce. Okay, so from all of this, we start writing our script, okay? Remembering that these things are generally happening in the Global South, but we're directing the video to the European Commission and the European Parliament. We're saying the consequences of your laws is producing this situation here in our locality. Okay, and we want to explain that as clearly as possible. And that's why we use the script to guide us to make sure that those people are going to listen. It doesn't make sense.
Andrew, sorry, that's about just one question. Sorry for interrupting. I don't know if the slide is stopped, and perhaps you can say next
slide. Yeah, if you want to do the next slide.
To give the information to Noemi, who is sharing your presentation, please, because I don't know if it's the same for you, but we are in the first slide.
We're in the first slide, yeah, because it's just like going over everything. But anyway, go on to the next slide, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. So, guidelines for before recording. Okay, this is we're going to think about what we're doing before we're going out to record. Can we go into the next slide, please? Okay. Okay, sorry, yeah. Okay, sorry. Next slide, we've gone through the script. We want to denounce. Okay, so now we're going to look at what is video production. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to consider about how we're making our video. Talking again about the different platforms, okay? Each platform has its requirements and the best way to attract attention. If we're filming for YouTube, we're going to use a horizontal video like we can see on the right. if we're filming for TikTok or Instagram or social media platforms that are generally watched on a mobile phone, we're often going to use a vertical filming style, which you can see on the left. Sometimes we'll be using on both platforms. In that case, we'll often just film horizontally. But if we're directing directly to Instagram and TikTok and such like, we'll be using the vertical style. Okay. So now we're going to look a little bit at the next slide, please. No, back, please. Sorry. Okay. So when we're filming, we've got to think about how dynamic we're going to be. We're not going to film everything from the same point. Okay. Now, if we're going to filming a 1.5 minute video for YouTube, if I just film from one position, people are going to get bored. Okay. We want to have a sequence of images. So we need to have thought with our script how we're going about filming our sequence of images. What will be our first image? What will be our second images? Okay. Do we show a school, a field, cut to the doctor? Do we start in the doctor talking about ill children? We show the school, we show the field. These are considerations that we need to consider to draw attention to our video. Okay, these are very important as far as the style is concerned. This will come when we look back a little bit on, when we come back to this, when we look at the editing, is how we film our shots and then we put them in a sequence that will work for us. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, also something to consider is initially, whenever you're on any kind of social media, be it receiving a video on WhatsApp, receiving a video or watching a video on YouTube, or watching your feed in YouTube or Instagram, you don't listen to sound. Very rarely you'll find people scrolling through their videos with sound. Okay, but if you manage within the first few seconds to attract their attention, then they'll press play, and that's where sound becomes very important. Okay, sound and music. Okay, what does sound add? Sound adds an element of emotion, whether that be people's voices. You can imagine the doctor's voice trembling as he tells you about the situation in the orphanage. Children crying, the sounds of the pesticide, the sounds of nurses rushing back and forth. These elements can add a lot of weight to a video. Whilst we first get attracted visually, the sound can really help touch emotional buttons. And that's what we'll be looking for when we're out filming. What sounds can I use in my when I'm editing the video to help push the video and make people follow what I'm saying, because I'm touching their emotional buttons. Now, this can work with music as well. Music can add atmosphere. If we want, as we all know, you put a happy tune and we feel happy. In a horror film, you put something that sounds scary and we're all waiting to be frightened. So we can use music to help add this emotion, add context, and help make the message powerful. Okay. So when we come to preparing our video, it's something we need to consider. Will this just be a straight up interview with a doctor or with a child or with a farmer or whatever? Or are we going to use elements of sound to make this more emotional and more powerful? So when that message comes, we feel attached to the message. It's moved us. Okay, and that can be the same. It can be the music. So we thought, okay, I'm going to use this music to help create tension or whatever in our video. So these are all elements we're thinking about before going out to record. It's all part of the video production or pre-production. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so here comes to the main part. Okay, we've prepared, we've thought about who we're going to talk about, where we're going to do it, how we would like to proceed with film, with what we think we're going to go and film. And now we have to go out and film it with our mobile phone. Now, everybody's mobile phone will be different, okay? But there are certain things that are the same in all mobile phones, really, okay? We're going to be using the camera on the rear. We're not going to be using the selfie camera unless it's totally necessary. Almost all cameras have a much better quality, all mobiles have a much better quality camera on the rear, okay? So we'll be using the rear camera to do our filming, okay? The next slide. This might seem a bit elemental, but a bit basic, but it's very, very clear, okay? Whenever we're filming, we have to make sure the mobile phone is prepared. That includes cleaning the lens, because just by handling the mobile phone, we touch with our fingers, it gets smeared with grease from our fingers, from dirt. By cleaning the lens, okay, assuring the lens is clear, we're making sure that we're going to be able to film clearly. People are not going to be put off by our image because it's got a big stain in the middle. The same goes with if we are going to be using microphones, because some people might have access to microphones, making sure that the mini jack or the attachment is clean, it's not full of dirt, because that will affect the sound. So these are elements, it's just preparing our equipment to make sure it's in the best situation possible. It's clean, it's ready, and then we can film. We can be sure that we're going to be filming something that's going to look as good as possible. Okay, the next page, please. I'm just going to say to Alberto, if you want to add anything at any moment, please feel free, okay? In case I've forgotten anything as we're going through.
Okay, I will.
Okay. How are we going to record with the mobile phone? Now, in general, we're going to look for the best quality possible. Lots of mobile phones nowadays can record in 4K. If your phone can record in 4K, we're going to always select 4K. It's only when, due to not having enough space in our telephone to record 4K, or if we're going to be filming a lot of stuff and it's going to fill up the card quickly, our SD card or whatever the mobile's memory is, then we'll consider HD, because the HD is not quite as good quality, okay? But it does have advantage of having smaller file sizes, which means that if I'm actually going out filming a lot of material and I know my phone doesn't have the capacity to hold all that material, then it's better in HD than 4K, okay? But in general rules, we'll always want to go to the best. Also, it's very important to consider where you are in the world and whether you are in what we consider PAL region or NTSC. Basically, the difference is that it's normal to be filming in 25 or 30 frames per second. Why is this important? Basically, if you're filming indoors in a country that is a PAL region, and you're filming with an NTSC, which is 30 frames, you will get flickering lights because the frequency of electricity and the camera are not coordinated, and your image will become very uncomfortable because the light will be moving and flickering. Okay, so we want to try to, if possible, and we know how, match whether we're 25 or 30 frames according to our country. I don't know each country, so each country has its own system and you'll have to check. Can we go on to the next page, please? seems simple, but we're filming someone, okay? Now, our phones are very good at detecting us what we want to do, but it's not always the case. If there are multiple faces in the screen whilst we're recording, or there are various things going on, or the lighting is not very good, the phone will not know what to record. It's pretty good at it, but it's not going to be very sure. Should I be recording the person on the right, the person on the left? What is the main, who is the protagonist here? So this is when we really want to consider is most phones, it's just a simple case of touching on the person that you want, and the phone should remain focused on that person. This is important if we're doing an interview with a group of people, because if the camera, if you don't select the person, the camera might well jump around from different people. And then when somebody's watching that video, that's very distracting. Remember, we've got a very short time to tell our story. So all these elements are important to make our story as interesting as possible, because once people start seeing all these different little failings, they move on to the next thing. So just by making sure we're focused on the right thing. The same, if we're focusing on the dead fish, we don't just wave the mobile phone around. We make sure that the phone is focused on that fish so that people can identify what it is we're showing, and it's all as clear as possible. We go on to the next slide, please. Very important thing to consider. You're doing an interview and someone calls you in the middle of the interview. Well, that's your interview ruined. You don't know if the person that was telling you something now changes their mind. They don't want to tell you something. They get nervous. They forget what they're talking about. It interrupts their flow. So when we're going to record, especially when we're talking about interviews, we put the phone in airplane mode. I mean, we know ourselves as production companies that will be on set filming somebody, and we'll say, turn off the phones. And then someone, maybe it's a representative of a person, won't have turned off the phone goes off and the interview's ruined. And you try to get it going again, and for whatever reason, the person you're interviewing has lost track of what they're doing. And it's a very important thing to consider. So airplane mode, which means that nobody's going to interrupt your recording. It's a very small thing, but it can make the difference between getting your interview or not. We go to the next page, please. Vertically or horizontally. This depends on your platform, where you're aiming at. If you're aiming for a video to be on TikTok, Instagram, or shared on WhatsApp, we're usually talking about it being a vertical video, okay? So we're going to be recording with our phone vertically, like that, okay? Because the end product will be seen like that. If we're talking about YouTube, we'll be filming like this, because people will be watching it like this, okay? It's two different formats. So we have to consider where it's going. If we don't know, then more often than not, we shoot horizontally and then try to make sure that whoever we're filming is in the middle of the image. That means if we do later have to change, what I mean is we're going to leave more space around the person. So we're not going to have a shot which is closed like this. We're going to leave more space so that if in the future I now need to put that video in a vertical platform, I can reduce it and I still see the face. But if I start from this position, when we reduce it, we're not going to get anything there. So only when we're filming, when we don't know what our final platform will be, then we try to film horizontally and we give space so that if we do have to crop the image, we're not losing what is the key element. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, can we go to the next page, please? Very important to try to keep the phone as stable as possible. We've all seen these videos when people are waving around like this. People will just turn off. They're not interested in getting dizzy whilst watching a video. If we're strong enough, we can be stable in our hand. Otherwise, think of different things. Could be a selfie stick, could be a tripod, could be placing the phone on a table supported by some books if you're making an interview. But what we want is to have a stable image. We don't want to be moving around. Sometimes in a live situation that might change. We have to do whatever we can do. But by assuring that we're controlling the situation and the movement of the phone as much as possible, we're going to have a more enjoyable video to watch and more chance of keeping people watching it. Okay, we go to the next slide. Here's another thing. Some people have a habit of zooming in. So they'll touch the screen and they'll zoom in. This is in general quite uncomfortable whilst watching a video. People don't tend to like that. So it's much better to do your first shot, the head, and then move away, do another shot of something else. You don't have the person talking and then zoom to the background. What we'd normally do is a sequence of 2 shots. We film the person talking, and then we film with a separate shot, whatever they're talking about, to give context. When would we use zoom? Once again, rules can be broken if something's happening in a moment, it's a live situation and it's a one opportunity to get the shot, then you use zoom because it's a one opportunity. But in general, if we're thinking about best practice, we try not to use the zoom. Okay, we think about doing a sequence rather than just following one person and zooming into someone else. Can we go to the next page? Once again, different shots. It's going to make our video more interesting. If we just wander around filming a continuous sequence, in general, it's not going to work unless you've got a very, very interesting presenter who's really, like a top YouTuber. But in general, it's not the best way. What we want to do is have a sequence of images, which once we edit them together, create a story. Those images can tell the story themselves, or they can be support for the voice or sound or written texts that we're using to tell our story. Okay, they give context and they can give a lot of power. Okay, so what we do is we use them to, we look for different images that can support our story. Okay, the next page. Very important, sound. Now, although we need images to attract people for the first few seconds to our story, at the end of the day, if we're doing an interview or whatever we're doing where people are talking, we need to have as good and clear sound as possible, because people will actually, they can take watching images that are not perfect, but if the sound's bad, people will just turn off. Okay, so here we want to consider again, make sure if we're recording with the mobile's mic, locate the mic, make sure it's clear, make sure it's not full of dirt or whatever. You've got a clean mic, as clean as possible. I don't know, or clean it with a little bit of alcohol or whatever. If you're using, if you're in a very windy place, think, okay, I'm outside, it's low wind. That wind will ruin your sound. So then we have to consider if we can find a piece of material that we can stick over the microphone to stop the wind making a lot of noise. Consider the position of our phone. If we're filming someone very far away with our phone's microphone, the chances are all the other noise will filter through of the surroundings and we won't hear clearly what the person is saying. If we can't hear clearly what the person is saying, we're not interested. Okay, so it's very important to take little steps to ensure that you're testing and you're checking that the sound is as clear as possible, from cleaning the mic to the position of the mic and the camera. And if we're lucky enough to have a microphone that attaches to the camera, to make sure that we're attaching it to the right place and that we're checking that the sound is clear before recording. Because if we record and for whatever reason the sound is not clear, once again we lose our audience, which our objective is to maintain the audience. Okay, the next one please. If we're lucky enough and we have somewhat of a budget, then these are elements that can really help our production. If we're doing interviews, a microphone, which we call a tie mic, which is plugged in and clipped onto the shirt or clothing, can give us much clearer sound when we're doing interviews. Of course, our budgets in Europe are obviously a lot bigger than budgets in the global south. And it's also true, though, that the prices are coming down all the time as these things become more and more available. So a microphone can really help, because sound is very important. To once we've got someone hooked on our story, the sound will be key. We want to hear what they have to say. Okay. Lighting. Now, of course, we can buy a little light like we see here, a LED, but we can be very creative. Everywhere we're going, we're filming, there are different types of light. Don't film an interview with someone in front of a bright window, because we will not see their face. It'll be too bright in the background. So turn around, have the light coming from the window onto his face. So lighting can be a light that we buy or we bring. It can be the light on our mobile phone if we're in a dark place, because many mobile phones will let you use the light on the phone and film at the same time. And this will mean that we can see clearly who's talking, because what we don't want is a very dark and murky picture where we can't see. So we have to consider lighting, be that natural light by positioning the person so that the light, and just looking at them, how does the light fall on their face? Can I see them clearly? If you can see them clearly, we've got a good starting point. Likewise, the tripod. Tripod can help make any interviews much better. It could be a selfie stick if we can get that, or looking to place our phone on something stable, a table, whatever, and supporting it with whatever elements we have to make sure that our interview shot or whatever it is nice and static. It's not moving around and people getting bored with it. Okay. After that, we can get more and more advanced with steady shots or whatever, but these are the main elements. Clear sound, lighting as good as possible so we can see who we're talking about, which means positioning the person so that the light that we have is usable, and trying to be as stable as possible. Okay, and the next one. Right, here's an example that later you'll be sent with some examples of what is possibly if there's financial support by an NGO. Well, these are some examples of products that you can buy that can make your production a lot better. Okay, the same goes. I was going to add one thing about sound. Very important. If someone has headphones that they can lend you, or you have, check your sound. Listen to what you're recording. Okay, whilst you're doing it. Okay, it's very easy to just record and go home and say, "Oh, I recorded something," and listen to it, and it's awful. You can't hear it. If someone has headphones, put them in and listen. Make sure it sounds okay. Okay, these are elements. The next one, and this is for the second part. Okay, so I think now we've got time. I think we've more or less. We're a bit 5 minutes behind starting, so we're 5 minutes behind finishing the first section, and we've got time for some questions. Is anyone there?
Hi, hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrew. I don't know, perhaps we are very tight in time. If there are not many questions, perhaps can we join all the questions at the end of your presentation, or just in case everybody can wait, or if somebody have a very important, crucial question, it can do it now. But I propose to join all the questions together at the end of the presentation. Andrew, if you agree.
Whatever.
To try to go with in line with the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me just.
Andrew?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can explain them that in a few days, we're gonna send you a manual where you will find more information about where to buy this stuff, production equipment. So you can look it deeply with that manual. So now for the presentation, we're gonna be fast in explaining all the things you can buy to make your filming better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the second part will be more support. I mean, the first part was explaining some key elements, which might seem quite simple, but they can really make a big difference with the end result. This part is will be supported with the manual, okay? Because a lot of it can be, because we're talking about apps and stuff where you're talking about getting a link to go and look at whatever that might be. Okay, so we will go through this part, okay, and then we can come back and I imagine there possibly might be more interest in questions about recording, but anyway, we will go through this. This will be a little bit quicker because a lot of the information will come in the manual because it's links to apps and different things. Okay, so there are two different phone types, or as we all know, there are the Android and there are Apple. There might be other Linux ones, I have no idea, but most people are using Android and a few people will be using Apple. Each of these platforms, or well, Apple is Apple and everything works with its own platform in more or less seamlessly. But most people who are out there in the field will be using iPhones. They'll probably be using Android phones. Each Android phone is completely different and has different quality lenses, recording settings. Some are a lot more advanced than others. Some are a lot more simple. Now, for the cameras that are simpler and they don't give you so many settings to record, because really when we're recording, we want to control as much as possible. Okay, so we're thinking about, we said we're going to try to record in 4K. We're going to try to make sure our sound is good. We're checking our sound, we're checking the lighting, we're trying to make sure that we're controlling as much as we can. Now, when it comes to filming, you want to set your different elements in your phone. Now, one of them will be the quality, 4K, HD. Another element that we haven't talked about is white balance. Now, white balance is making sure that the color white basically looks white. Now, we've all seen a video where it might be, I don't know, a bride getting married with a white dress and it looks yellow or it looks pink. Normally that's because the phone hasn't got a white balance. Not all Android phones give us those options. So we can sometimes look for an app, which we will later pass in the manual, that can give us more options. So if we're filming it with daylight, usually has a little symbol which shows a sun. We click on the sun and that means our colors will look good. So it doesn't look weird or uncomfortable. Likewise, if we're filming indoors with the yellow light, we can see what our light is. The light's yellow, it's a light bulb or whatever. We can click on the light bulb and it will give us normally what is an interior light colors. So our colors look correct. Why would we use a video recording app? We would use that because our Android phone doesn't give us the settings that we might need to manipulate to get the best possible result. If we're talking about Apple phones, if we're honest, they are already set up to record videos pretty spot on. They have all the settings that you might need. Okay. The next one. The next slide, sorry. This is more or less the same kind of thing. What do these do? Some phones have a cinema mode which uses internal processing to make our images look more cinematic. What does that mean? It means the background is blurred out, which draws our attention to the subject. So we can see in the photo on the left, the woman is very clearly the center of our attention. Why? Because the background is now blurred. Okay, so often when we get an application that gives us these controls, we can use them creatively to guide our attention to a person, so that we make sure that the image looks interesting and we are focused on whoever is giving us the information. Imagine this woman had 5 other people behind her. Now, in certain cameras, all those people would all be in focus, and our eyes move around and we stop paying attention. We're distracted. Certain cameras will give you cinema mode, where you can see on the example on the right, we've touched on her and it knows that she's in focus, and it automatically, using processing, makes everything else go out of focus slightly, which means that we are very much drawing our attention to this one person. Once again, Apple has this all integrated. The top end Android phones have it, but a lot of the lower end ones don't. So this is why we might consider an app to help produce images that, once again, our main goal is attracting attention, making sure people are following our message and not getting distracted and moving on to the next video. Because that's what happens. If we're distracted, we're already on to the next video and we've forgotten about what we are watching. Okay. One thing about these, obviously most of them have a cost, or if they don't have an initial cost, once you want to start doing interesting things, they start charging you for them. Not necessarily a lot, but it can add up. Okay. Can we go to the next page? Okay, this is more of the same. If you can see on the left, we have an example of what is our white balance, which is making sure that the colors, as we can see in the bottom left, there's an example of a light bulb, a sun, a cloud. These are basically settings that if you're in an interior space, you would touch the light bulb. It means our colors are correct. They look good. They're not distracting, because it's all about not distracting people from your message. So if everything is perfectly done as possible, then people will focus on our message. If we're outside and it's a sunny day, we select sun in the white balance, and we know that everything's going to look good. It's not going to look weird. It's not going to look orange. It's not going to look green. Okay. These are important elements that, when coming to production, all add up to make the video a more compelling experience. Likewise, we have a cloud. What does the cloud mean? It's a cloudy day. We select that, and the images will appear to have the right colors for the circumstances. So there are various applications that we will include in the manual that you can use as a reference. If your phone, if you want to take that step to produce the video, the best video possible, and if your phone doesn't actually have those. If your phone has these are elements that you should be considering using in the application for filming within your phone. Okay, each phone has its camera with its settings. These are settings that you should be considering using. White balance, sound levels. Okay, you're listening to your sound. You're checking that the sound's not too much. It's not getting distorted. Now, each phone will have a level slider, okay? It usually has a picture of a microphone that you can adjust. Likewise, the color, we're checking that it's correct, okay? And depending on each app, there might be other things, but these are the key things. Your resolution, your sound levels, and your color correction, okay? Can we go to the next slide? Yep.
Andrew. Hello.
Yes, hello.
I have a few things to clarify. I'm looking for some clarification. Like as I'm Ram Charitra Shah from CFED Nepal, and
Hello.
while doing this video advocacy, some of the things like ethical consideration, consensus taking from the, like, if we shoot some children or some people, some farmers, so consensus taking a specific on the specific issue, how we can we have to pay the consideration for that. And specifically I'm looking some clarification if we need to highlight some of the specific issue within the advocacy story, within the video, what will be the specific things to be considered in terms of techniques, in terms of in terms of like highlighting the specific issue within the story in terms by the video. Yes, thank you.
Okay, as far as the ethical considerations, I think, you know, Eva was kind of covering that in the beginning, and I'm not sure if you have another.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, technically, it will come down to various things. You obviously in your script have to decide what is the important thing that you want to show. Okay.
Yes.
You have to decide, can I film this? Can I only get sound? If I can only get sound, how do I support that with images? Okay. So then once you've got your images or your sound and your images, it will come down to what we're going to look at now, which is editing. Okay. Editing is the next section. So if you want to change the slide, can we change the slide, Naomi? Well, we've got questions and answers. We'll go on to the next slide. Okay. Post-production editing. Okay. So in a certain way, this is where you're going to find out. This is where you can direct your audience using the material that you've filmed. Okay. The sequence that you make, okay, is the story. It's a story. It's a sequence of images and sounds that tells a story here, okay? That we've done our script, we've gone out and filmed it, and here's where we guide our viewer to the information we want them to take it on board, okay? And we do that in editing. So can we go to the next page, please? So I'm just going to give you a brief overlay of idea of what we're doing when we're editing, and then we'll look at the different platforms that you can do it. Editing is very powerful in many circumstances. Imagine we have our example of our orphanage, and they're spraying in fields nearby, and we've got ill children, okay? We have gone and filmed and interviewed the doctor. We filmed an ill child. We filmed the fields. We filmed the hospital. We filmed various things. Okay. When it comes to editing, we're going to choose how we put those things together to explain our story. Okay. Now, there's not just one way to do it, because each story is different, and you can take the same material and move it around. Okay. To draw attention to one thing or another. Okay. In your story, when you're editing, who's the person that's the best person to start the story? Is it the doctor? No. I've got 15 ill children today, you know? Okay, that's very powerful. You know, when you're editing, if you want to draw attention, he's calling attention to the situation, and then you back that up with just sequence of images whilst he's talking of the river with the dead fish, the field. This is how we use the editing to guide the viewer to experience and to show what we want to say. So it's up to each individual to work out through their script and the material they've managed to get, what is the most powerful way that I can do that, okay? Editing is always trial and error, okay? In the sense, through experience, there'll be less trial. Sorry, there'll be less trial and error because you learn to work out what works. But you imagine you edit the video, you do a sequence, doctor, various things that look horrible, okay? Parents or whatever, villagers complaining about the situation, okay? How do you finish that? What's the last image going to be? All these are elements that you're going to consider when you're editing, okay? Depending on whatever you're doing. A great way to do it is you do it, show it to a colleague or a friend. You know, does that work for you? If not, you go back and edit it. That's the great thing about editing. We can do it as many times as we need until we get it as close to what we want as possible, okay? So for video editing, most phones don't necessarily have a particularly good video editor, or they might not have any video editing app within the phone. There are many, which we'll pass on in the manual, which you actually have to pay for. A lot of these started out a few years ago being free. Then you start using them and they start asking for money. Sometimes you can use a certain app up until a point. They might say, oh, you can do 5 videos for free, and you take advantage of that app. You do your 5 videos and then you get rid of that app and you move on to the next one. That's free. This is always changing, and what could be relevant now in a week can change, okay? But we're going to give you a manual, and it's a case of looking individually and trying out several. It can be a case of going to your apps in Android, downloading and seeing to what point does it let you edit, okay? Can we go to the next page, please? Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of Canva, but Canva has now become a very popular, it can be used as an app or online on your computer, okay? One thing to notice between the difference between an app and working on something online. You might be disconnected from the internet. I have no idea. It might be you're out filming in some remote place, okay, where there's very little internet connection, and you're filming, you're doing your stuff on your mobile phone, and you want to work on editing there as well. In that case, you want an app. Why? An app is integrated in your phone. You don't need to be connected usually online. You can edit away, and then once you come to a place where you have internet, you can put it online, okay? Whereas if you're using an online page in Canva, you could be either the app or the online page, then you're connected to the internet whilst you're editing, okay? So it's something to consider. Something to consider if you're going to be needing to edit, as we say, offline, you're not connected to the internet, or you're going to be connected to the internet and then you'll have access to many other things. Canva is a great place to start, okay? It has not just video editing things, it has lots of graphic tools. You can edit your videos, you can upload videos, you can use templates, you can use lots of material that they have, okay? And I would suggest it's a very good starting point for anyone who's looking to find a place or a platform where they're going to edit their videos, okay? Once again, everything can change. They can suddenly decide that nothing's free anymore. And then I'm sure there'll be another one that comes along. But this is very good. And this is very good in the sense that as well, if we're editing our videos and we know we've got our sound, we've got our images, we want to have a great impact in our first few seconds. Well, Canva is fantastic for that because it has the tools to put titles, okay, messages, so you can put a phrase. Often, as we said, we're scrolling through our phone, and an image and a text impacts us, and it calls our attention, it makes us think, oh, what's this? And that's when we start watching it. So in an application like Canva, you've got the opportunity to add a text or whatever it might be in that first image or your first 3-4 seconds that helps draw people in, okay? Here's another example. These are just the examples. There are lots of different examples of apps. Also, I'll mention that they do change quite rapidly. Everything's changing very rapidly these days. So one can advocate one, and then after a while, it's maybe not the best option. They all have their pluses and minuses, and the best thing is to really see what works for you. Do you need more complex tools, or just simple cut and paste? Is that going to work for you? Okay, so this is just another example. In the manual, we'll have a list of these. Okay. The next one, next slide. If one of the advantages of having Apple is that everything's integrated and it works very well. If you happen to be using an iPhone, then you can download iMovie and you can edit everything. If you do have a chance to use an iPhone, it's a great option, but they're more expensive and they're not so widely known outside maybe Europe and or the global north, let's just say. Okay, because they're very expensive at the end of the day. But everything's integrated, and if you do have Apple, I would suggest iMovie is a fantastic place to start. It has all the things you really need to edit your video in any way you want. Okay, we go to the next page. These are more examples that we'll send you that could be used on your phone, your tablet, or whatever. Okay, next page, please. When we're editing, we might need certain images that we haven't been able to get hold of, okay, to tell our story. This is when we can use image banks, okay? Image banks are collections of images that you have to check. Each image bank will have certain rules as to which images you can use if you pay or if they're free. Sometimes you just have to put a note at the end of the video, okay, I used so-and-so's image. We'll pass a list of these that they could be used. They could be useful for supporting images. Imagine we wanted our dead fish, but we didn't, no, there'd be loads of dead fish from the pesticides, but we went out the film, we didn't find a dead fish. Well, that's when we go to the image bank, we go, okay, here's a dead fish. Okay, does the dead fish look more or less like, is the dead fish in a river that looks like my area? Well, we can use that. Okay, this is where we use it to support our editing. Okay, the next one, the same. It's about, you have to check yourself. Each individual site and each individual image has permissions that you need to check. Okay, the next one. The same goes with video banks. We'll send some lists of places where you can get bits of video that you can put into your videos to support whatever you're doing. Hopefully you don't need this. Hopefully you've gone out and filmed everything, and everything that you're doing can tell your story. But maybe you need something else to help tell it. These are where you can go to get it. Okay, next page. Once again, the same with sound. This, I would say, is possibly more interesting because we're maybe looking for, as we said, music to create emotion in our video, for whatever it might be. And if you want to go to the next page, so we don't have the sound annoying us, what could be very interesting is that if you needed a sound to help create some kind of emotion, or maybe you have a picture of the field, but you don't necessarily have the sound of the spray. Well, you could go to a sound bank, you can get the sound of a spray. Maybe that helps tell your story. Maybe you haven't got the sound of crying children. Well, maybe you can go to a sound bank and get the sound of a crying baby. Maybe that helps your story. Okay, so these are tools that you can have to help make your story seem more emotional, because at the end of the day, you want to create a reaction that results in a call to action. What do you want? You're doing all of this so that people they will react to what you've shown them, and in our case, get in contact with the European Union, the European Parliament to say this must stop. Okay, so the whole purpose of all of this is using these different elements to convince people to go and do something. Okay, are we at the end now? I think we're more or less at the end. We're going to look at the video example, I think. Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll look at the video example, then we'll go back and I think it'll be easier to go over certain elements with questions. Does that sound good?
Yes, thank you, Andrew. There is a technical question in the chat regarding the settings about that. The best image quality options in one mobile phone is HEVC. I don't know if you can take note of this.
Yes, I mean, HEVC is good. I mean, most mobile phones have their own, most of these settings will work anywhere. You're basically just checking on your phone that you're using the highest quality resolution and usually the highest quality file sizes. So sometimes your phone will show that a file size is only maybe 20 megabytes or 200 megabytes. If you have the space, you're always going for the bigger number. Okay, the bigger number means there's more quality. Someone's asked about Canva. Sorry, someone's asked about editing. As I said, I would start as a general rule in a place like Canva. Canva has everything. Okay, not just video editing. It has you can do graphics, etc. So it's a great tool in general for any kind of campaign, any kind of creative job that you need to do. It's got a lot of tools. Most of them are free, and it means you can get started straight away. Okay. So as far as different files, usually if you're editing in your phone, whatever file type your phone is recording, you'll be able to edit. You'd have to have a very strange, weird configuration in your phone to have a file that's complicated to edit. And what I would suggest, if you do come to edit and you have a problem with your file, go to Google and put your file name, you say convert, in this case, HEVC to MP4, and online they'll probably convert for free your file to an MP4 format, which is universal. Okay, so plan B, my footage is filmed in a strange format. I find out what the name of my format is. I just look at the file name and I put in Google, convert whatever my file name is to MP4. Okay. And then you'll have footage that you can probably always edit. Okay.
Okay.
Rarely happens. But sometimes it has happened to me. I've had clients that send stuff and you think, what is this? Okay.
So regarding the editing software for Android or Windows,
I mean, obviously, we're talking about things that ourselves, we use professional programs that cost a lot of money. So that's why I'm suggesting Canva. There are others because, I mean, obviously things change all the time. Okay. We were using ones that were free a few months ago and they're not free anymore. So it's something that you constantly need to be updating yourself with, because I can tell you something now and they can change it tomorrow. Okay. Some will have limitations of the quality. So imagine you can work in, I haven't checked recently what I was doing stuff before with it, but as I said, they keep changing. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll let you edit, but when it comes to exporting, they'll say, okay, yeah, you're using the free version. So I'm going to give you less quality when you're exporting. Okay. Or you can only do 20 seconds. Well, these are limitations if we're using free software that we need to always consider. So this is part of our pre-production. Part of our pre-production is going and saying, what tools do I have available? And how am I going to use them? You know, the internet is a huge world. There's not one answer. We can only give you kind of guidelines where to look. As I said, there are things like when you have complicated material, convert, you look in Google. Likewise, as far as editing is concerned, you look free editors, and I can tell you what comes in my feed now is very different from 6 months ago, because there are new apps, there are new stuff. We're now getting to a point where with artificial intelligence, I can see people are they're just sending stuff and saying edit it. Okay.
Yes,
so
yes, we suppose that the artificial intelligence is going to change a lot of things in the next few months, not years, and
it's already changing things. The things have already changed.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if you wanted from me to share the video that you prepared it as an example.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, you can share it, and as I said, like,
okay.
We need to be host to share it.
Yes, I'm going to do it. So this is an example you prepared. This is an example of that is the result of filming, editing, and using. You can perhaps talk after about this. I'm using an application to put some accent, a specific accent in the voice. So let's see the video you sent us. We can after this
I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay.
Okay, let's go see the video and then we can talk about it.
Exactly. Once you're in the video, I'll be back.
The use of pesticides can affect our environment and our health. Excessive use of pesticides on farmland leads to soil depletion and the inability to grow crops for a long time, and jeopardizes water quality in nearby areas. It also affects the increasing loss of species biodiversity. Pesticides can be toxic to humans. Their exposure can cause diseases such as different types of cancer, skin problems, neurological problems, cognitive developmental disorders, and fetal death, among others. Some Western countries are banning the use of these toxic and harmful pesticides in their territories, but allowing their sale and consumption in developing countries. They are used indiscriminately in cultivation areas close to populations, such as schools. From the European Environmental Bureau, we want to make you aware of this problem because they are not first and second-class people, but citizens of the world who do not want to get sick or die from the indiscriminate use of pesticides. We really need your help to share this video and spread the message.
Okay. So thank you. Yes.
This is a video. It was created everything with a bank of images. So in this case, I mean, you're talking in a general way. So you are not talking about a specific problem in a specific area. So in this case, I mean, bank of images is perfect to explain something, and then you can mix.
This video is made with the app CleanTap. It's the app for Microsoft. You can make with a mobile and computer. This voice is for intelligent artificial, and you can select the language and the country. English native,
the accent.
Africa, Australia. Have a lot of possibilities.
Great. This is the result. We should try to look for our videos to prove the evidence, and just to try to summarize all the things we have been working today in the workshop. All the elements from the technical point of view that you have teach us are quite important to prepare the best quality performance that we can do. The main thing that we have to work is, as Andrew talked at the beginning of the presentation, the script, the story you want to tell, that in a video must be a short story. You told about different platforms are used to host different duration of the videos, shorter or longer, etc. And that I think that there is a sentence that regarding the impact of the videos we are going to prepare is very important. This sentence told by Andrew is that children crying is the sound of IHPs. From our point of view, besides all the technical information and all the technical advices, the heart of the campaign is that we are saying, like we talked about in the previous workshop about press release, we are saying the truth. We are in the side of the people who is suffering, and we have a global goal, very important to achieve, related to human health and to environment conservation. This is the thing you have to think about it when you are doing your script, and to think and focus in the specific country situation, like if you are working with children, if we are working with farmers, if you are working with rivers, if you are working whatever. So I think we can open the floor for more technical or other questions to learn more in a few minutes.
Yes, I think it's interesting, Andrew, if we talk about the ending of the videos, especially if you are going to use them in social media, the way you make a call of action, if you can explain that.
Well, I mean, here there can be different ways to do that within the actual video itself. And I think you're going to later have another course on how to upload to specific social media things. Your call of action can be text. What do you want people to do? No, please send this video to your friends. Please contact the European Union. It can be written with titles. These programs all have the ability to put titles, subtitles, or whatever you need. It could be a person. Something can be very powerful, a person thing. Please contact the European Union now. Please send this video to as many people as you know. So your call to action is what do you want to do? This is your last few seconds where you've done this, you've explained the situation, and you're trying to convince people to move this video or send this video to wherever you want to send it. So it can be done by a person, it can be done by text. Okay. Everyone's asking about the software. We're going to send a manual over the next few days, which will have lists of different software and different things. Okay. I've sent you there a tip for difficult files that you put in Google, convert X, which is whatever file you've got, to MP4 for editing. Okay. I'm going to ask Eva. Eva, can I share like a couple of articles that I found about advocacy videos in general?
Yes, of course. You can put the link if you want in the chat, or you can send to us and we can share with the rest of the participants.
I mean, I'm just going to share this now because it's not necessary in the. I mean, we're talking about things to consider. First image is vital. Your first image is where you're attracting people or not. Okay, that's why you also want that first image to attract people to want to know more about what you're talking about. Because if that first, when I'm looking at my phone, I'm going like this, oh, look, a car, oh, look, oh, a nice house. Oh, what's this? That image is what's going to get me to watch your video or not. Because you can spend all the time you want doing your production, and if no one watches it, it's it's a shame, but you're not connecting with people. Okay. So you want people to see your first images and want to know more. Okay, so you've really in a certain way got three key elements: attract attention, tell the story, call to action. Okay. At the end of the day, possibly the most important part is attract attention. Okay. If you're going to use screenshots, as people are asking, photos, most of these applications have an element which is, it's just like upload image. So you get your image, whether it's from your phone, if it's a screenshot or whatever. So you can include that in your video. Once again, when you're editing a video, think about the length of time. You're not going to have a static screenshot for 10 seconds. It's boring. Nobody's going to watch it. You know, all of these things have to be considered. Sorry?
Yes, there are 2 hands up, and want to have the floor. Yes, Chitra.
अनि मोहन सर अनि उमेश यादव अनि
I don't know which is the question. I couldn't hear very well.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Meanwhile, Christina's asked about designing the title of a video. Clickbait, yes or no? I mean, everything really is clickbait. We all know ourselves. How many times have we, we're attracted to whatever the first message is. Even at the end of the day, we're not actually interested in what they're talking about, but that we find something interesting, attractive. We want to know more. And this is the key. Clickbait is it has a reason, and that is it's attracting us to find out more about whatever they're telling us. Okay. So they've achieved, well, clickbait often achieves its main goal, which is getting you engaged. Okay. The key is that if you do go for that, it's like, how are you backing that up? And that's where your story comes in. So I say clickbait is that's how social media works. It's all clickbait, because there's so much noise that if you don't have that initial attraction, your video just disappears. It's very different. Okay, if you're sending it around WhatsApp, then it's different, because you know who you're sending it to. You know there's a chance they might watch it, because you're targeting an audience. But if you're just sending it out on social network, you're sending it out to Facebook, you're sending it out to, or whatever, Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok, you're competing against every other thing that's going on out there. So if you don't have an element of clickbait to attract attention, you're just going to get lost in all the noise. Okay. WhatsApp can be a very useful system of sharing videos. If you have a video, you send it around to different people that might be interested. If you're not disturbing whatever the privacy laws are in your country, it's now a bit complicated, all that. But yeah, clickbait, I think it's pretty vital.
I don't know if you have more questions, or yes, there is a new message about for clarification. Andrew and Aurelio and Alberto, I don't know. This is a very technical workshop, and perhaps after this activity, everybody is going to take the mobile phones and look and investigate and research which kind of applications and which kind of tools do they have. And I don't know if it is possible to open a box for for further questions within the new week, in order to put all together and to ask you for the different answers or advice once the people has the opportunity to check the mobile phone, or to talk about, or to think about an idea or video or whatever that we could talk about in the next week. Or
you mean that they ask us like sending an email, or
Yes, no, we can summarize all the questions. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I think,
because after they get the manual, I mean,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
much better
Great,
that they
yes.
see the
Okay.
manual, because
Okay.
some of the questions
Perfect.
that they have maybe are going to be answered
Some
in
days.
the manual. So first, it's good for them to have it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I would suggest to everyone, okay, wait for the manual, you'll get the manual, that'll give you a lot of information. But taking on board what was said, as Eva said, investigate your phone. If you've practiced with your phone before you go out to film, okay, it's going to give you more of an idea of what your phone is capable of, okay, where you might have problems, okay, and how then you start looking for solutions to make that work. And more practice, the more you practice with it, the better you get, so that when it comes to the moment that you're filming, you're not thinking, oh, where's the resolution, oh, where's the sound, where's this. You've practiced, you know your way around the phone, and then when you go out, you're more ready to deal with what you want to do rather than the technical problems of your phone. What we want here is that you to have prepared yourself as well as possible, knowing your equipment, knowing your ideas, so that when you're there filming, you can concentrate on getting the material you need, and that the technical elements are not a hindrance, that they actually help you rather than make you go slower. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's kind of vital.
Okay, great, thank you. I see Phoebe is with the hand up. Phoebe, you have the floor. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Eva, and I want to thank Andrew for a wonderful presentation. And my worry is there are different kinds of informants that we have on the field, and if we are going out to take videos, it depends on what we are going out to shoot. For example, if I have maybe the original delegate to interview, it's going to be different. The video, one, is going to be lengthy. Two, we consider him as key informant because what he's going to say, we might not even post it on our social media handles, but we might send it directly to the EEB team for a technical review to see what he has said. Maybe it's a message to you directly. I think those videos require different standards of production. We see, or if I'm going to, like we did with Francois, we're interviewing the chief of center for one of the centers in Idea. The video was quite lengthy because we had a series of questions, and he too needs time to express himself. And we did a lot of short videos about the situation, since we didn't have enough storage. So all of those things, I'm worried how we are going to handle them at once, because we are videoing people at different levels, community levels, at the regional levels, at the national level. You see, and depending on the opportunity that we meet in the field. For example, I'm in Yaoundé, and I want to pay a visit to the Ministry of Agriculture, as I will be doing tomorrow before leaving. I might meet somebody, a key informant, to interview. So how are we going to handle all of those things?
Well, I think, I mean, you mentioned one thing there is about storage space. You have to work around your limitations. Okay, that's when we said, we'd like to record everything in 4K, but if we see that we don't have the space, either on our phone or on our hard drives or wherever we're storing, then that's when we start considering that we want smaller file sizes. We want HD. Maybe we're going to consider more compressed HD. That means, using the ones that use a smaller number of megabytes or whatever it is. Okay, so everyone has their own situation. Okay, storage is whether you can afford, whether your phone has the ability to put a larger micro SD card or whatever. These are all considerations as well. Once you've recorded and used, if your phone has a lot of material, is there a way that you can store that material elsewhere so that your phone is empty, so that you have space to record all of these things? And it's true that there are lots of different, if I understand you correctly, there are different videos that require different lengths. But here we're talking specifically about trying to get people involved in a specific campaign in this moment of time. It's true, we might have videos where we need to film longer interviews because whatever reason, we want to see a minister talking about lots of things. In that case, it's for you to judge. You will know, you have to know where the video is going, what your audience is. Okay. If you're directing your video at a lot of people who are going to listen to the minister talking about whatever, then it's fine. Do a longer video because they already know what they're going to be, why they are watching the video. Whereas here we're talking about videos where we're trying to appeal to an audience that have no idea about your video in general. So the idea is that we have to attract their attention first. And everything else is really for you to judge,
Okay, thank you. Dolores, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva and Andrew and everybody for the workshop. I was just thinking about like you're giving instructions like to make very professional videos, which is really great. But I think that a non-professional video also has a big value. For example, we are in the campaign to stop the exports of banned chemicals in the EU. We need to gather evidence from the global south on how pesticides and these chemicals are used. And I think that a very non-professional video just from our colleagues showing what is happening has a value, like compared to a highly professional video with music and with everything. So I think there should be a balance, like the noise in a market where you can buy directly in a plastic bag a chemical that is banned in the EU, or you should be using with so much protective equipment on. I think that has in itself a value that professional sound and background noise or fancy music cannot give you in advocacy terms towards the EU. And locally, I imagine it's different. And if you want a TikTok or the Instagram, these things that you see in seconds, that is different. So
yes,
just to say this, that I think it has a value.
You are right, and we have been debating a lot when preparing the workshop, because this workshop is for a broad different kind of organizations and people. And this building of the material is prepared to provide all the best information about technical possibilities and professional, from a professional point of view, but always having in the mind and in the heart the things we have been talking about, that we have something to expose, we have something to denounce. This is not a commercial video, this is a denounce video, and we have to provide this evidence to the European Commission and in this process of participation, of public participation. We have been working with different materials. Let me share you some example of the things you are talking about that we have been building or talking about this kind of video coming from one country with one specific situation. Non-professional from the field. With examples from Zambia, for instance, the substance coming from the information of Zambia, where our friends are working in orphan houses. It's very short. It's an example, it's not real information about the hospitals. So, okay, so this is an example. We are building our information, we are building our message. And we have to decide what do we do with information we have, and at the level of exposure we want to be in our countries. So this is an example. We have the little one, the big technical professional one, and the question is, now with all the information, we have to build our videos with evidence to put in the box of the European Commission in this public consultation process. And the videos, as Dolores says, can be very easy, very personal, very short, or can be more professional, or very easy, but with professional tips. So now it's up to you, it's up to us. How do we work with this information, but having into account that we have in front the European Union, our objective is the European Commission to ban the exports of HHPs. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can I just add something about what Dolores said? I think it's very right. It's certain, sometimes just straight up videos of whatever's happening can work. At the same time, you imagine you just filming in the market with all the sound and someone's telling you something. What we're just saying is that, you know, that might work, but maybe by doing some little thing, you're going to get better sound and your image is going to be a little bit better, so that when the person that does come to watch that, the message is clearer. Okay. The video is everywhere. There are many ways to do it. What we're giving you here is tips that how you can take something like that and just polish it off however much you need to, so that you get the best result possible. Okay. And one other thing I will say is the biggest turn off for people is bad sound. Okay. We can deal with bad images, etc. But if the sound, if you're interviewing somebody and the sound isn't clear, then people tend to just disconnect. So these are the little things that can help. Okay.
Okay.
Thankfully, phones are getting better and better.
Do you think, just to try to finish, because we are very late and we can have this opportunity after reading the manual you are going to send and to share, we can recap all the information and some suggestions, some questions. But I want to finish with this idea of the importance of sound in video, like this beep beep of a hospital, or a crying of a baby, saying that this is the sound of HHPs. I really appreciate and I really like this idea. So now we could go ahead with the finish of the workshop. We have a lot of work to do. We have different sites from we can work, and now we need some time to talk about the next face-to-face meeting in July. We have in our project. I don't know, Rina, if you can provide us with more information or you need from us something. Rina, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. No, just quick, sorry, just talking about video, I'm not able to make my camera good. So now just very quickly, I just need a minute to update you. We are 6 weeks away. The 12, 13, and 14 July, we will have a face-to-face meeting in Brussels. So the people that will participate are already looking for visa. They got their flight approval. So things are going on. What I will ask you is to come back to me with an update. So you will receive later today or tomorrow an email asking for updates so that we know where we are and if you need support. In the meantime, we will refine the agenda and see what we will put into this meeting, how it will be the best way to collaborate and to share experiences. And you will receive more precise information and requests, because we would like you to be an active part of this meeting. So will bring our your experience to the people that will share the space in Brussels. Just to let you know, we secured a place where we will be, where we will stay and hold the meeting. We are in contact with some member of the parliament just to see if it's possible to arrange a meeting with them to better understand and to bring our issues to them. And basically that's it. You will receive this email asking for updates and we keep in contact. The meeting will be hybrid, so all of you will be able to follow it. So that's from my side. I don't want to take more time because we are already late. So thank you all, and thank you to Andrew, Aurelio, and Alberto for this fantastic workshop. It has been really, really interesting and I think really, really useful. So thank you, all the three of you. Thanks,
Great,
Eva.
Thank you. Thank you. We hope this helps you to make better videos. You don't need to make them all to work, but if you take some of them, your videos are going to be better. And this is only our recommendations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrew, Aurelio, and Alberto. Your advice is very important for the things and the work we have to do in front of us. And I hope this material and this manual will provide more information to explain ourselves in a very short time with images and music, express our concern and express our demands to the European Commission in this important moment we are living with this open public consultation. So thank you very much. Your help is very useful for us, and we'll keep in touch if needed to send you some questions or whatever. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to all our colleagues and friends from the two projects that joined today in this workshop. I hope this activity has been useful for all of you. And you see, we are a lot of people working with the same objective. So I hope, I knew that we can go ahead stronger and more join with this kind of activities. So thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Eva. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, goodbye.